How did you get your start in the markets?
I was born in Scotland, and at a very young age of 7, I moved to the south of England with my Scottish father, and we lived in a commuter belt town in the south of England. And I was very fascinated by these guys going to the train station every morning, and this is like mid-80s, so there were still a few bowler hats and umbrellas around at that time. And I just found it quite magical watching these people disappear every day and then come back again in the evening. So I started work quite young, and I actually went up to the city at the age of 19 after I finished college, literally in an oversized Marks and Spencer suit and my dad's briefcase. And in those days, you literally went knocking on the headhunters' door with paper. And my first interview got my first job at a place called the Republic Bank of New York, working in the back office in the bullion department. And it was really old school, if you think about it now. So people were coming in the morning. We'd literally draw what you would now call a spreadsheet. And my day was phoning 8 other banks and swapping metals positions with each other. I actually had my baptism of fire. So I moved from the back office at RapNat to the front office. It was supposedly the biggest spot desk in terms of volume in the whole of London. And my job was really an old school junior, doing all the jobs that no one wants to do. So ripping paper tickets, getting lunches, and being abused quite badly on a daily basis. I had a nickname of Elvis at the time. So anyone reading this later will know me as Elvis, the guy from the trading floor doing the tickets and getting their breakfast. And basically did that. And it was a baptism of fire, like I say, where they tested you on multiple things until the point where one day one of the guys will let you put on a position. I remember it very clearly. And we used to have a lot of big names used to phone into the sales desk at the end. They would stand out and shout out a big order ticket. And in those days, they were quite big. It'd probably be like $100, $200 million worth of one currency or the other. And it would be people like Joe Lewis or Warren Buffett or central banks. And the market would move very quickly. Everyone was shouting, asking for orders. And I got a chance to trade. And I sold the top and bought the bottom. And I was very happy with myself. It was a dollar-yen trade with this guy called Ninja. I got taken to the office with the big boss man who said, "You're never going to be a trader. Never again are you ever going to make any money." And I was like, well. So I went back to making sandwiches. A lot of abuse. I remember once there was an anti-capitalist riot in the city, and they made me dress up in a full 3-piece suit with a cravat and a tie and everything. Gave me a bunch of cash, like a bunch, and sent me to walk down through Monument, through Cannon Street, where the rioters were smashing up the life floor, to go and collect a whole list of items. And I had to get through them and come back with everything in order to pass the test. So it was like that for quite a while.
How would you keep track of the metals?
The Republic Bank of New York was one of what they called the fixing banks. So there was 8 in London, and we had a spot desk, and we were on the ground floor and they were on the first floor. And it involved a lot of running up and down the stairs, collecting positions, netting off their positions by the end of the day. And then the following morning, you knew what yesterday's trades were. I knew I was maybe long platinum versus Rothschilds and maybe short gold with JP Morgan. And we literally just phoned each other up and said, "Hey, I owe you 10,000 ounces of gold today." And then they say, "Thank you." "Yes, you do." And you tick it off on a bit of paper and pass that to some guy who would drive in a armored truck and go and pick it all up from their vault and bring it to my vault.
What was it like working at the National Bank of Australia?
Wasn't my favourite job. It was probably the job I was actually worse at, if I'm honest. So it was sitting on the sales side of the FX desk rather than on the trading side. So my job was basically to pick up the phone when people were calling in to do some transactions and then pass those trades over verbally, mostly to the spot desk. And it just didn't gel well with me for some reason. I can't really explain it. I just don't look back at it with much joy. I think it was the job that made me ground myself again. As a junior, I'd been grounded a lot. And around that time, I'd also got, in my personal life, very into martial arts. That has been with me my whole life. But again, humbling was a big thing. I think going through compliance, realising I felt like I knew better, then going back onto the trading floor and getting taught a lesson. So I think that was probably my biggest thing. And of course, around that time with 9/11, so we saw that live and direct on the TV screen as it happened. So that was obviously a shocking thing. I think a lot of the desk and a lot of the traders responded pretty well. Makes me feel bad even saying that word, but they responded as they should, I guess, as a market response. and a lot of people made a lot of money, which is, I know some people have donated that, and I wish them the best for doing so. Others not so much. And I remember particularly what was more frightening actually than the market was getting phone calls from friends and family asking, are you okay? And then sort of alarms going off in the building. And we're in London, and they're still asking you to leave the building and go home. So trying to like rally around and meet your friends and family in the city who work there too, to try and all get home together. So it was a bit of a panic station that day.
What made you decide you wanted to be a local proprietary trader?
A friend of mine had been a prop trader, and he was working for this really nice firm. They're still around. They're called GHF. Now GHF is more of a big clearing bank. But back in those days, it was run by a guy called Gideon Hurston, who had a prop shop. And I had literally cut out a piece of article from a newspaper saying traders wanted. I went along for an interview, and I think 15 of us got picked for their scheme. And this was an unusual thing back in those days. I mean, it's quite popular now, but we went through the trainee program with this guy and trading one lots, learning how to trade the boom bobble shat spread. And I loved it. And it was good. I was very lucky. We were in a group of us who all did very well and went on to do good things. The turnover of people in that market was quite heavy, but we seemed to last the test of time. I stayed at GHF for some time, and then a bunch of people left to go to this place called Mac Futures, or Refco around that time, which again is quite a known shop. I decided to go to work with a friend at this place called Saxon Financials, and I stayed there for 8 or 9 years. Worked in London, went to work in Madrid for some time, also worked in a place called Gibraltar, which is a British colony on the outskirts of Spain. So I got to move around with it. Dublin as well, traded there for a bit. So it was great. It's a really good job. The best job in the world and the worst job in the world all in the same day.
Was this all electronic trading?
Yeah, we were very much finger clickers. Of the group of us who traded together from that scheme, we all went on to do quite well. And we were literally just trading the arbitrage between the bull and bobble, which is a 5 and 10 year government bonds on Eurex, 10,000 round trips a day, quite happily. But this is literally just in and out, in and out, in and out, looking for 1 or 2 ticks. I must have done that for 7, 8 years, I guess. We just had an edge. We don't know what that edge was. We've been interviewed by a psychologist and market consultants trying to find the secret to how us as a group particularly changed. But we were a very different group of people, and there was never a secret in there anyway. We don't know what it is. I've worked with astrophysics degree people to cab drivers, to all sorts, and there is no answer, I don't think. It's a mixture of bravery and focus and something else that I have to this day. I can pick out patterns necessarily in numbers, not necessarily know what they mean, but I can notice something not quite right, and I do that even today.